Hello and welcome to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. As the Arvind Kejriwal government finishes 1 year in Delhi, we are here to see if he's done a good job or take out his report card. For that, I have with me Neerja Chowdhury, a senior journalist, Dr Sameer Kaul, an oncologist. I have Suhel Seth, marketing guru, and Advaita Kala, novelist. So Suhel, how would you rate Arvind Kejriwal's 1 year as Delhi Chief Minister, and also compare his stint to earlier? Has he matured a bit since his earlier stint? Do we see him governing finally?
I think there is an attempt on his part to govern. I was one of the first people who was skeptical about odd even. I think odd even worked. The problem with Arvind Kejriwal is he remains a tactician and not a strategist. If I were him, I would launch the odd even scheme 60 or 90 days later, having thought the whole thing through. He is like a sputtering engine. You know the engine will work, but you don't know when it will stop. And that is damn bad for citizenship. It's terrible for governance. Number two, he has debased the idiom of politics as we've seen it in India. And I don't mean only he, I mean him and his party. So even if they mean well, they come across as people who are theatrical, people who are more interested in, television bites, people who are more interested in saying things just for the sake of saying them. So he's never taken, to my mind, seriously. He's never taken as a person who you can look up to. He's always seen as a person who's still got bones of anarchy within him. And that doesn't augur well for a city, especially which was led just before him by the very elegant, auntie-like figure, Sheila Dikshit. So, it's the politics of confrontation which he thrives in. Whereas in today's world, especially if you run Delhi, you need the politics of collaboration. Because you can't keep, messing around with the lieutenant governor, with the centre, because they control so many arms. So why would you want your tenure to always be seen as either a crybaby or someone who's perennially at war with people?
Advaita, crybaby, rebel at large, or a governance at last?
I think mostly a headline chaser. Okay. I think that's what's coming across increasingly, and that's a little disappointing because certainly when they came to power in December 2013, it was a time when I felt very, very happy about it. I thought that they were a disruptive force in a way, but I said this kynism, to use a term, was replacing the cynicism that we felt as residents of Delhi towards governance, towards politics, with so many scams and things like that. And then we saw how that turned out. And then subsequently the second term, and again there's really not much of a difference in that sense. You still see them getting into positions of conflict constantly. I mean, I think his ambition in fact extends beyond being the Chief Minister of Delhi, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the Chief Minister of Delhi is a job. Whereas, and that it has to be done well. If you have ambitions beyond Delhi, then hand the job over to someone else in your party, let them handle the job, and then you become a national leader. Go to Hyderabad, be in Bangalore and do a conference about, I was surprised, the press conference yesterday. It's chaos here, but he's sitting in Bangalore and doing that press conference. So I think, really, divide the workload if it's too much for you, but get things done. I think people are running out of patience.
Neerja, it's not just dividing the workload. Okay, that's part of his problem, but also the problem is he has to first define the workload. I would say, is he here to govern? Is he here to just agitate and fight with the centre? Because Suhel made a very valid point. Sheila Dikshit had a problem. She had a Vajpayee government, but she managed to collaborate, as he said.
I think two things. One, we have to see the historic setting of the rise of AAP. I don't think there has been a party like AAP in India's independent history. Now, we've seen over the years activists not accepted as politicians. And the fact that activists were accepted in the role of politicians meant that India was ready for something new in politics and looked up to them. Now, has he lived up to this is the question in the last 1 year. He's a very savvy politician. He goes for the jugular, as Suhel was saying, odd even, many people would have quailed at the thought and thought through things, but he went for it. And today, if you ask people in Delhi, many people, large number of people will say yes.
I'm a great votary of odd and even.
That he
I think it worked.
It worked, and they'll be ready to try it again. Bijli Pani in the Bastis today, yes, he has a following. people swear by him. The fact that in Punjab, which is going to polls next year, they are looking at Aam Aadmi Party as an alternative, and Mr. Amarinder Singh, who's the face of the Congress Party in Punjab, concedes this, that the fight is going to be between Congress and AAP, also says something about the expectations that Aam Aadmi Party has aroused. But there has also been no party in independent India's history which broke up within 2 weeks of the kind of Shandar mandate. There lies Arvind Kejriwal's weakness, not being able to take everyone along. He has huge courage. You know, he'll take on anybody.
He's divisive. He's not an assimilator.
So
that's interesting.
I
That's his charge
divisive,
against Prime Minister
but
Modi.
There is a skill here.
Modi may be divisive in other areas, but this guy he's in perennial self-destruct mode.
No, I won't even say that, because I think it's too early to judge him in that way. Now it is one more party, maybe slightly better than others, a small party, but it's not the kind of, you know, pan-India,
The
people were
movement
talking
that it
about it
was,
as
you
being
know.
an alternative to the Congress in given time, that kind of thing they don't have.
So I'm going to bring in Dr. Sameer Kaul, also Neerja, once we'll discuss more on that later. But Dr. Kaul, what are your first impressions of Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal?
Truth be told, when he began initially and the kind of support he got from the youngsters and the techie crowd and maybe the rickshaw drivers or the kind that you want to identify him with, I was a bit skeptical. And I just thought that he was another one guy who was up looking for glory and quick glory. But as 1 year has passed with his being in government, I have to say that despite everyone feeling, you know, more or less on this panel that he's probably not doing the right thing, I have to say that I have slowly and steadily turned around to become his supporter, in a sense. I admit that, I mean, I know that my country needs more leaders of his ilk, you know, not him, maybe not typically him, but more and more newer guys with fresher minds who I'm willing to let learn.
Okay.
I'm willing to allow them to learn the ropes as they go along, because it's not an easy game, particularly in a place like Delhi, let's say a state like Delhi, which is sort of caught up between the center and the state and so many other things.
And how?
And the kind of expectations that we guys have, they always run high.
All right.
So,
But Suhel, you know, you praised him for the odd-even scheme, but you know, the centre also played a role. The odd-even scheme would not have been successful without, say, the Delhi police, whom he's reminded us time and again is under the centre. So in that sense, his confrontation with the centre, does that jar?
You see, the point is, he has failed to realize that this is an age of co-optation, not an age of competition. When you have a cause, you better co-opt people to that cause. It'll only help that cause move quicker. I hope he has learned the lesson from odd even. This is a police force he berated, a police force he accused of impropriety, of corruption. It was the same police force he praised. But the point is, he's very, very frugal with praise. He's very frugal with giving credit where it's due. If I were him, I'd have put out an ad after odd and even, not only thanking Delhi citizens, I would have named the bureaucrats in the centre, Gadkari or whoever it was, Rajnath Singh, saying that thank you for coming together for Delhi. He would have praised the citizens of NCR. The point with him is, he is a perennially angry man. Bitterness is his DNA, not affection. But when you're at that level of politics, you need to come across as affectionate, even though you may be as bitter as God.
So maybe he's not as political as the rest of them, which is a
No,
good
he's
thing.
very political. He is the smartest communicator. He can teach Modi a lesson or two in communication, in grabbing headlines, as Advaita said. But the problem with him is he still has to mature. You know, it's wine that's slowly turning into vinegar, which could easily have remained very fine wine. And he has to understand that distinction. Plus, he always erects an alternate hierarchy. It's almost as if he's the only Puritan in the world and the rest are crooked. You can't treat the world with such blinkers. You can't assume that everyone is dishonest and that you're the only savior and messiah of this world. So that upsets a lot of people, saying, who the hell are you? Finally, and while on this subject, and you know, Neerja mentioned, I don't think 1 year is short enough or long enough. It's an important year because please remember, the guy's been in this political minefield for a long time. What he has to realize is what kind of legacy does he want to leave behind. And as they go into polls in Punjab, does he want people in Punjab to feel कि आदमी आ तो जाएगा पर ये दंगलबाज है? Because that's the Punjabi feeling. See, no one wants so much of, the conflict all the time.
I had a friend coming from out of town. He said, look, I'm not getting any power cuts. People in the Jhuggi Jhopri are happy with the Bijli Pani. So I've got really no complaints against Kejriwal also, So he may be different, but at least he hasn't really messed up Delhi too much also.
No, I don't think there's so much.
He doesn't have too much control to mess up Delhi, sorry.
I don't think it's so much about him messing up. I think it's also about the messaging to a certain extent. I think there's just so much conflict. And I think he's been setting himself up for this conflict prior to the general elections, when he chose to fight from Varanasi and went on and put on a great show. Or even, I think, again, was a glimpse of the movement, the people's movement that AAP originally was. But like Neerja said, what have we seen along the way? We've seen people who were part of the team that formed AAP kind of dismissed very publicly. If you look at it as a woman, just the optics, I don't see any women really in the forefront when it comes to government, when it comes to, being on television and furthering their point or their case or reflecting women's issues. I find the fact that, it's becoming a bit of a cozy club. And it's increasingly getting centered around a certain coterie of people, which is very much like a high command culture, which you don't expect from an Aam Aadmi party. And this will bear testament to people from Mumbai AAP. I have friends in that section of AAP, and there is a lot of conflict as far as what is going on there. And I think this is sort of, permeating. When you're politicians as well, you're crying wolf too often. If you accuse somebody of impropriety, financial impropriety, go ahead and prove it. This is what the people expect from you. That's why we voted for you.
Yeah, he's an alleger. People get tired of every time you raise some bogey which you can't substantiate.
Absolutely.
And, this is like crying wolf so often that you even move the hills out, the shepherds out. And I think that's being stupid. My personal belief is, and I will say this, one meets so many people, three things have happened. Number one, there is less corruption in Delhi government.
Yes.
People are scared. So, hats off to him. He's done that. Number two, people say, as Neerja did, that in the economically weaker sections, in the Jhuggi Jhopris, in the JJ clusters, yes, power and water has returned. The third, he still has an enormous base of popularity within the weaker sections of our society. So, obviously, he's doing something right. Now, he takes our views as elitism and dismisses them. But that's where he's stupid. He should realize that we are as much citizens paying taxes as anyone else is. So why can't he be more collaborative and all ears rather than just be unidimensional linear?
Yeah, this reverse elitism, reverse acting against government people, because at the end of the day, now you are government. You can't say that I hate politicians, because you are one and you need a Modi to help you, you need a Gadkari to help you. So why not just admit it and
a couple of things, while I've expressed my disappointment, having situated the rise of AAP as an absolutely incredible phenomenon, not seen before in India, I would say that he has managed to keep his head above water despite all the adversity, despite the split after 2 weeks of power. Suppose I would say the centre's view or stance towards the AAP government has not been a very conciliatory one. For a minute, hypothetically speaking, if you had a BJP government in Delhi, would the LG have behaved differently? Let's ask ourselves that question. Every day there is confrontation, and it takes two to tango, not one. So I wouldn't only blame him for that confrontation. The centre also wants to put AAP in his place. The other thing Suhel, you were talking about water in the bastis and electricity. I was talking to my cousin who lives in Vasant Vihar. He's a great fan of Kejriwal. He said, as far as I'm concerned, we used to get water tanks here. Today we get water all the time through the taps. He has ensured that as far as I'm concerned, he's on. So even amongst the middle class, some in the middle class love to hate Arvind Kejriwal, but there are others who are, would like to give him more time. I'm certainly one of those. He has his flaws, he has his faults, and we should point those out. But I think you need, and India is ready for courageous, as I keep saying, the bung leaders who can deliver, who go for the jugular.
Just like to interject here and say that we are human beings, and so there is this huge point in allowing people to be human. What Suhel Seth was 20 years back, he could have thought differently, and I would allow him to do that. And I would allow him to evolve.
Suhel Seth doesn't have Delhi under him.
No, my question is
and
that
sadly I remain the same.
At the end of it, even if he has Delhi under him, I don't expect him to be a different human being. It is a matter of an evolution of a human being.
Which brings me to
an infrastructure.
No, but then, Sameer, it brings me to a very interesting point. I think what Arvind Kejriwal lacks is the ability to evolve, because he has created a mold for himself which he doesn't want to destroy.
We don't know.
I'm telling you, see, we only. I don't sleep with him. Neither do you.
Perennial angry young man of this country.
See, that's celluloid.
And his soul.
But that's Kejriwal. If I were advising a man like him, not that he listens to anyone, I would tell him, you've proven step one. You've got a great opportunity, Neerja touched upon it, of moving from political rabidology to political statesmanship.
He probably will.
No, but here, we are judging him here and now. You know, we're not Nostradamus to say, 20 years later he might get the Nobel Prize for Peace. Now let's hope that someone drives sense into him to say that, look, you have all the goodness, you have the courage, remove the conflict, remove the bitterness, remove the anger, replace it with some level of emotional maturity.
I mean, I agree with you, but as long as we realize, let's be philosophers here and say, look, here is this life
of course.
And guy evolving.
Of course.
A leader is to evolve, to learn from his mistakes.
Regressive. All I'm saying
and
is
it's not easy
progressive.
creating the kind of team that you need to run this country or a state. And we all make mistakes, and for God's sake, he's a learned fellow. He is an educated fellow. And he started off much better than lots of unlearned, uneducated people that we have to bear.
But you see, good politician, you don't have to be goody-goody in that sense. We always, again, this is a transition from an activist role to a political role, and therefore we want him to be activist, super activist and a super politician. He's making that transition, or has made. He's, I think, a superb politician. Rajendra Kumar was raided, attacked. Within 2 weeks, he turned the table.
His DNA is dharna, not decency.
Arun Jaitley under attack on DDCA.
We just need to take a break, but we're going to come back and also discuss how much of this confrontation is really Arvind Kejriwal's fault and how much has he really been provoked by the centre also. So after the break. Welcome back. We are discussing 1 year of Arvind Kejriwal as Delhi Chief Minister. Suhel, as I said before the break, how much of this confrontation is it only Kejriwal's own taking? Because as Neerja pointed out, the centre has also been, they're the one who raided him on the CBI case. The LG has been more active than he would have been if, say, there was a BJP government at the power.
I'm sure. See, it's political one-upmanship. So, in political one-upmanship, there are only two roles you can play. One is of a bully and the other is of being a martyr. The problem is that Arvind Kejriwal doesn't know which role to play, so he oscillates between martyrdom and bullydom. If he had played martyr, more and more people would have been on his side. A, B.
But isn't he playing martyr, saying I've been raided, I'm under attack?
What he's playing is, he's saying, okay, you've done this to me, see what I do to you. In this, no one wins. It's an old Bernard Shaw quote, when whales fight, shrimps are eaten. What you're seeing today on the streets of Delhi is garbage which affects not Kejriwal, nor Modi. It affects all of us sitting here. You are turning the tables on who? They are going to be in power for the next 4 years? So are you.
Right.
Do you want to leave a legacy of governance? Yes. Do you want people to know that you've done a lot of work? Yes. Why don't you just align, co-opt them? And if they don't co-opt, then have messaging which is substantive and based on facts. His is messaging which is based on allegation. His messaging is never based on fact. If you remember, he has raised allegations against everyone. Not one has been proven. So the point is, from cry wolf to governance, from dharna to decency is the journey that Kejriwal needs to travel.
But say, in the CBI case, the Supreme Court has come on his side, saying why.
The Supreme Court, with due respect, the Supreme Court is not what remains or revolves in the public domain. What revolves in the public domain is, yaar, ye har waqt jhagdata hi hai.
Advaita, moving on to this fact that, Kejriwal say he plans to go to Punjab. Captain Amrinder Singh has said that maybe he'll be the CM face over there. Would someone like Manish Sisodia govern better?
I said this right at the start of the show. I think there has to be more division of labor. I feel
But
this
he's
very
given
strongly.
that. He's not holding any portfolio. He's kept himself free for the showmanship.
But then, why be this sort of titular head in that
No,
sense?
in that case, why should Modi
in
go
that
around and
sense.
campaign all over the country in the states?
No, but this place is in disarray. MCD workers have carried out a mock funeral procession. There are people on television saying, I don't have salary, I don't have money to pay my rent, to pay my child's tuition. And this is distressing because these are people who make up the Aam Aadmi. And I feel that in some way he's almost become deracinated from that. I find that extremely problematic.
I'm going to give the final word to Dr. Kaul and then...
I just
I'll say one
feel
line
that if we are here this morning to kill negativism, then let me be optimistic. And let me
Well,
say,
we are optimistic.
Let me say that maybe we've had too many expectations from him. Is that not possible?
Like
Certainly
we've had
so.
with Modi.
Yes, exactly the same phenomenon.
And we've all wanted in such a short period of time. We will not allow him to create his team. It will take time. Of course, it can be Sisodia today. It could be somebody else. It takes time to find the right people to work with. And I know for sure that if he's going to go places, he needs a better team. And of course, things will evolve. And let's give him some more time.
Give him
One
some more
quick
time.
thing,
Last
Priya, that I think given the kind of distress, given the fact that Delhi citizens do suffer, the kind of garbage, all those issues that have arisen as a result of this confrontation between the centre and the Delhi government, I think the time has really come for Mr. Narendra Modi and Arvind Kejriwal to, sit together and despite their differences,
They never will.
they may
have
not
that cup
be
of
I may be a
remember-
realist, but I still
No, it's
feel
not
in the
realism.
interest of,
Both have a very strong foundation of personal popularity. Both
you may
believe
be right,
that they
Suhel,
are,
but I think
you know,
somewhere you
the
need to
people's
draw a
gift,
Lakshman
which they
Rekha,
are.
that beyond which you don't carry.
I think Mr.
But that's
Kejriwal
why I
needs
said
to draw that
statesmanship is
Rekha with
missing.
the people he works
But
with.
so does
I don't think the Prime Minister
the
is someone
BJP.
that he's working with. I think that's
No,
again
he's
going to
seen
be
the
like
Prime
a.
Minister, he's seen
But
Mr.
I
Rajnath
think he
Singh.
needs to interact with really the LG and figure it out. I don't
But
think
the LG
there's
is not
anything in
working
sort
on
of
his own. The LG is taking
shooting
orders
for
from
the-
somebody else.
On behalf of the
Correct, but
centre.
I think that, what's happening right now is that it's extreme negativity. And now it's coming down to manifesting as garbage on the streets. And that people are not going to deal with.
That's a very sad note to end on, but I'm afraid I'll have to call a wrap on this show. Thank you for watching this edition of Roundtable. We'll see you again, same time next week.